miss the butter and egg days parade, and the trolleys on a slow track. Sometimes I can't wait. Pub, crawling wine bar, a river best to boot. Set beside.
Hello, I'm David Glass, Mayor of Petaluma, and today we're going to talk about Christmas. We're going to talk about Christmas cheer. Even though it's the summer, as you know, when Santa is up at the North Pole, he starts his planning process literally on Christmas afternoon, because by the time the packages are all delivered at the crack of dawn on Christmas Day, he's back up to the North Pole and laying the foundation for next year's work. And that's exactly what's going on here in Petaluma. Christmas Cheer is an organization that works to bring Christmas into households that otherwise might not have a very Merry Christmas at all. So with us is Deborah Mae Butham and Carol Garrison, and they are two members of the local nonprofit all-volunteer organization called Christmas Cheer here in Petaluma. And Deborah, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And Carol, it's nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about this organization, Christmas Cheer. First of all, tell us about the organization. What is it?
We're an all-volunteer group that provides food and toys to needy families in Petaluma and Pengrove, and also food boxes to seniors who are homebound and couldn't come in to get something they might need from us.
All-volunteer group. How many volunteers are in this particular group?
Well, there's a core membership of around 30 to 35 people, and then members of the community come and volunteer with us during our season, as we call it. The season, we're open usually from the Monday after Thanksgiving until about the weekend before Christmas.
And how many families ideally would you serve?
We try to serve around 800 families in the Petaluma-Pengrove area.
Now, last year you were really challenged as an organization to find a facility. Santa has his workshop up at the North Pole, so no problem there. Tell us about the challenges of Christmas Cheer to serve 800 families with food and toys. What kind of facilities do you need to do that?
Ideally, a very large empty warehouse that has good ingress and egress for the families to come in, do the applications, and then receive the toys and food on the pickup days. Last year, at the last moment, we were blessed with the Presbyterian Church.
First Presbyterian Church.
On B Street allowed us to use their double wide in the back of their parking lot. Unfortunately, it restricted our number of families that we could help because we didn't have room for the food boxes. We were able to do the toys, but basically we were tripping over each other in the small space. We would love to be there again if they could have more space for us, which they're looking into. But ideally would be a larger warehouse space.
Well, I had a chance to visit with some of your members, and they kind of were nice enough to produce a chart of a wish list of an ideal facility and then down to something that would work and work okay, and down to a minimum facility that below this standard, it really just unfortunately would not work. And I know that you have that grid chart, and who knows who's looking at this right now with a heart of gold, and they'll say, okay, so that's Christmas. I know that it's the summertime, but it takes a lot of planning. We know that from Santa Claus's experience, that he works on it year round, and maybe they know of a facility that they have that they would be willing to donate for this Christmas Cheer program. So let's lay it out there and just see what happens as we get the word out. What are your parameters that ideally you'd look for?
What we need, if we can get it, is 16,000 square feet. We need to have it be on not a main street, because twice during our season, at the very beginning and at the very end, we cause traffic jams. So we need to be well off of a main street. If there's a parking lot, that's great, because then we can have the people inside that parking lot, not making a problem for the rest of the city. Our kind of medium size would be 10,000 square feet. And at 6,000 square feet, we're only able to serve a minimum number of families, and we could not make the food boxes. Part of our needs of having the large space is being able to involve more community members. When we're allowed to have food boxes, then we can have more volunteers from the community come in and help us pack them. When we have a smaller space, then we can't accept volunteers because there's nothing for them to do. We give out gift cards instead of food boxes, and there's nothing to pack. We also need to have bathrooms in that space, and it's lovely if there's any kind of kitchen facility because then we can have our snacks and lunches. It needs to lock very well. It needs to be vermin proof. We will have food, and so we can't use somebody's old barn as much as we'd love to. It needs to be in the city in an area that's accessible. A lot of our people don't have cars or must borrow one, so it needs to be inside Petaluma somewhere, not out in the countryside. I think that's about it. Carol, have I left anything out?
I don't think so. We need to have it available from the first Monday after Thanksgiving through till, I believe you said that, like the weekend before Christmas.
Although
So-
we clean up after that.
Yes, and we have a good work crew that cleans up as we go in, and we clean up and leave it even cleaner than we found it when we leave. We have liability insurance, we pay our own utilities, so we're pretty self-sufficient in that manner.
And you're vital to this community, because tell us about the families that you serve now. These would be families in Petaluma.
These are families in Petaluma and Pengrove. We do check their addresses to make sure they are within our area of service. We do use the federal poverty guidelines in helping us determine eligibility. We make sure to ask for IDs for the applicants and for their children that would receive the toys. These are people who just don't have enough. We see a lot of them come in their work uniforms, so we know these are people who are working and trying to make ends meet, but at Christmas, sometimes you just can't.
For a young child, and they see all around them so much in a community like this, where there's so much wealth actually, if we really get honest about it, there's a lot of
Yes.
wealth in this area. And you take a young child and their parents are working and they're doing what they can to put food on the table, and when choice comes down between food or toys, any parent's going to make the choice to food. And so, and sometimes there's not even enough food to go around in some of the families, and they're working hard. And so they wind up making a choice of whether their child eats or they eat. And those folks will make the choice that the child will eat. So you look at this, the entire package, it's not just toys, and it's not frivolous when we talk about toys, but it's about providing and really experiencing that feeling that it is better to give than receive. And that's really the gift that I think all of your members get inside of the Christmas Cheer program.
We do, and when we have a large facility and we're able to accept community volunteers, we can spread that feeling. We can have other people come, not just our core group, and help in that experience of giving to others within the community.
The distribution of food, you mentioned that in the past you've gone to adjusting to giving out gift certificates. Ideally, I guess you would try to give what kind of a meal if it was actual food? What are you looking at?
What we usually do is fill a box, a banana box, traditionally, with staple goods, canned food, as well as dry staples. Then on the day of distribution, the families also receive fresh produce and frozen fowl, turkey or chicken, depending on the choice of the family and what we have at the time. We try to make sure there's enough for a couple of meals, but it's their choice what meals they would be.
If someone were looking and they were thinking about a space that they have, maybe in a business park that isn't 100% occupied, that might even have a facility, because I've been in with a kitchen, because some of these places that had large employers that now are vacant do have kitchen facilities where they provided meals for the employees when the buildings were occupied. So if someone were looking for, one, a good feeling in the Christmas season, and maybe even two, recapturing some of their investment with a tax write-off, because you're
We're a 501c3 charity.
So people are, if they were to donate, the value of the building would be, I guess, I'm not allowed to give tax advice, but I'm thinking that that would probably be a charitable donation to
Exactly.
a qualified entity. They actually could take a building that may be vacant and realize a tax deduction while they did something good for the community and good for their own heart.
You got it.
And we would hope they would be able to take that advantage. We can't give tax information either, but
No.
we can certainly hope that that's true. Also, we don't only use a warehouse, we've also used large office spaces in the past where they had the large cubicle filled rooms. Those have worked out for us very well in the past, that we've been able to use them as well.
We talked about an ideal situation where you get the building space right around Thanksgiving and you keep it to right around the first of the year so you can leave it, as you say, cleaned up and better than you found it.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the minimal time that you could actually have a facility and still, in some ways at least, meet your goals of your operation. Because I know that's an ideal time frame, but it may be that push came to shove and it wasn't available. Something else might work?
We really do need that time from the first Monday after Thanksgiving until right before Christmas, and then a couple extra days to let us clean it up. Ideally, we'd love to come in the middle of November,
Okay.
so that we would have time to set up. But because of taking the applications and receiving donations from the community, we really do need that time from the first Monday in November, first Monday after Thanksgiving until just before Christmas.
All right, so this organization in itself, it has been here for decades, even a couple of generations, hasn't it?
It has indeed. One of our members is the son of one of our previous presidents of the coordinating council, the Petaluma Coordinating Council. So it has been a generational, a family interest for many of our members. The council was established in 1957.
How close were you to going out of existence last year had it not been for the church that stepped up and saved you?
Within a few days, it was down to critical time before the church stepped up and said, we have the space, and we're like, thank you. If we had not been able to get the space at the church, we probably would not have been able to put on Christmas cheer last year. And that would have been a huge blow to the community.
What are the ages of the kids that benefit from the toy program?
We supply toys from age 0 to age 12. After age 12, children are more interested in very specific things, or boyfriends or girlfriends, and those don't fit in the sacks very well.
No.
So-
Okay, so for these young kids, how many of them last year were you able to provide a toy for?
We had, I think, about 1,200, somewhere around there, I would guess.
The organization's been doing this for generations. What kind of feedback have you gotten through the years, maybe from someone that went on with their life and came back and said how much it meant to them at that particular moment in time? What's that experience?
We do get thank you letters from many of our recipients, and many of our recipients volunteer to help us.
Yes.
We have had people who have come back and donated and said specifically that they had received previously, but now they were able to donate and they were so happy to do so. Also, a lot of our core members had that experience as children, that their families were families of need, and that they received, and they knew exactly how happy it made them when someone could help them out, when their family needed it.
I know you volunteer a program for Meals on Wheels.
Yes.
How would you contrast this experience of filling a need right at Christmas time and the emotional situation that is all wrapped up around that with the regular weekly visits that you may make, or more than weekly depending on how often you volunteer at Meals on Wheels, to stay connected with seniors that otherwise might be disconnected from their community?
It's pretty much equal. I mean, we're dealing with whole families at Christmas time. Meals on Wheels deals specifically with homebound seniors. We also provide for those a large number of those homebound seniors at Christmas time with Christmas cheer. They get little gift packs and food, and we deliver to them. It's, for me, It's an awesome feeling because, like Deborah said, I was on the receiving end as a child. So I know how it feels at Christmas time and there's no tree and there's no presents. And then all of a sudden, here comes mom and dad home with this giant black garbage bag that is dragging the ground because it's so full of toys for myself and my siblings, as well as food for maybe a Christmas dinner. It's just an incomparable feeling.
I'll share this with you because I come from a similar background, and I don't know when you would get back into what happens at Christmas with a young child. That's what I want to focus on for a moment. Too much of the conversation, unfortunately, with a young child in their peer group is going to naturally be around the conversation of what did you get for Christmas?
Exactly.
And especially when you wrap it up inside of what did Santa Claus bring you, which removes it from capability to provide and wraps it up inside of a mysterious giver of a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that do to the image, self-worth, and esteem of those that are skipped over by Santa Claus as a result? And that really is the bottom line of what happens at the bottom level of this with the young kids, particularly the kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old, to be aware of what's happening with their kids around them and how it impacts their image of what's wrong with me that I didn't get something myself. Have you noticed that dynamic inside of what you're dealing with here?
Well, one of the things we do is pack the toys in black garbage bags so that the kids can't see in. And then it's up to the parents to decide if the parents brought the toys, if Santa brought the toys, or if the toys came from Christmas cheer. We think it's best for the families to be able to make that distinction.
That's good. And what about your thoughts about that?
It's I'm right in line with Deborah, and it makes it nice because when we pack, because I worked with the toy group last year, when we pack the bags, we have the ages and the sex of the child, and we try to give comparable toys to what the other kids are going to be receiving at Christmas time. So they're not getting like just a puzzle or something. They're getting some really good toys. And these are all donations from the community. And it's just awesome. Because we know that when that child sees those toys on Christmas morning, they're going to be so thrilled. And it's just going to make their year.
Okay, so anything else you want to add about the organization, about the package, about the need here to keep this organization viable in our community?
We need space, we need space, we need space.
We do. We try not to use our funds to rent space. We're dependent on donated space every year. We want all of our funding to be able to go into the food and the toys for the families that we serve.
Yes.
We don't want to be spending it on a roof.
Okay, so there you have it. Scarce resources, Christmas talk about here in the middle of summer and about what's going to happen in December, but it can't happen without you. So here's what they need. They absolutely must have, to be viable, 6,000 square feet minimum. That's 500 square feet for operations, 500 square feet for food, 5,000 square feet for toys, for a total of 6,000 square feet. They need that space from the first Monday after Thanksgiving until a couple of days after Christmas so that they can actually get it cleaned up and return it in a condition that's better than you lent it to them. Now, what would be nice to have would be a total of 10,000 square feet, and what would be the dream ideal situation so as many families as possible could enjoy the benefits of this great program would be as much as 16,000 square feet. So that's the message of awareness to the community. So now you know, now help us let other people know, because if you tell enough people about where you are with a particular situation, it will find its way, just like the message in that little glass bottle that's put into the ocean. It will find its way to the shore of Safe Harbor, and somebody will open it up and they'll be able to say, just like a magic genie, I can fill that wish. And it's a wish that needs to be filled in our community. So with that, I'm David Glass, the mayor of Petaluma, and I thank our folks from Christmas Cheer, Deborah May Bupham and Carol Garrison, and ask each of them, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I think you've summarized it very nicely. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And from the studios of Petaluma Community Access, which is your TV station, I'm David Glass, the mayor of Petaluma. It's been nice talking to you.
All for Johnny's in.